This is our Gaming During Quarantine panel. I'm Mr. Keller from Liberty High School, Strategy Games Club advisor. And I've got with me today Chris Haggerty and Anthony Cafiero. Chris, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Chris Haggerty, or Mr. Haggerty to my students. I'm an artist and a teacher, originally from the Portland area, but educated in New York City and lived in New York City for a time. And I have gamed both there in Portland and New York City. Tabletop gaming is probably the only hobby I've stuck to for all my life. I'm a parent now. I'm a working public employee. I've done all these things, and it's the only one. It just keeps on getting pared down and pared down. It's like, can I live with this thing, or can I live without this thing? And it's the one that's kind of held on for the most time. So I think I've been a tabletop gamer since I was a wee little kid. I just kind of stuck to it. But I am employed as a teacher and I'm an artist. So that's my shtick.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And Anthony, how about you?
My name's Anthony Cafiero. I'm originally from New York State. Moved out here in 2000 to go to Reed College and have not left. I've been a chef for 20 years in some of the nicer restaurants in Portland. And funny enough, I got back into playing D&D when 5th edition came out. I grew up with an older brother. I'm an 80s kid, and it was always around, and luckily enough, I actually have a bunch of his old stuff. So when 5th edition came around, a few friends were like, yo, let's play D&D. And I said, I used to do that, and it has not stopped since. And I've started a Portland-based, basically a gaming dinner club. It's called Orcs Pop-Up Tavern. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all Orcs. What we do is we take a bar or restaurant over, and for that evening, dinner, dessert, and Dungeons and Dragons, 4 hours of a one-shot game. It's a $45 price tag, and it's a great time. Everyone's invited as well, which is pretty great. Our home base is Game Nights Lounge, which is a board game bar on William Street in North Portland, and they've been wonderful to us, and we've done a lot. We go to Rose City Comic Con now. Like, we are becoming a known entity in Portland for really inclusive gaming. You know, we have up to 8 tables, pro DMs that love to just make a new game up every month or a new adventure. And the repeat customers are great, and always the new customers are almost there. It's a lot of fun. Orcs is a great time.
That sounds cool. What's the website?
The website's orcs.com.
Okay, that makes sense.
and all it's Orcs on Twitter and Instagram, and it's Orcs Pop-Up Tavern on Facebook if you want to like that and see what we're up to. We got like a charity game going on pretty soon. We're kind of doing that kind of thing right now. We're a little quiet, but all of my DM buddies that I employ we're all gaming a lot more than we almost used to right now, to be honest.
All right, well, that's a great transition to our topic. Gaming during quarantine, that's one of the only ways we've been able to game for a while. But first, let's talk a little bit about why we game. Like, why do you game, Chris? Why do you game, Anthony? What got you started and what's kept you going?
I suppose I'll go.
Yeah.
Of course, like, it got, like, you know, as like a lot of people in my generation, it kind of got started, was introduced by another kid. Like, you know, I was the oldest, so it wasn't an older brother, like, which is typical. Yeah. But it was like a friend or something like that. And, like, you know, usually when you get like introduced young enough, it's this book and you can barely understand all these like arcane mechanics and like all these systems, and it's asking you to do the slight bit of math, which isn't that shocking, but just keeping track of it all as like a kid, like, you know, a 12-year-old or something like that, is kind of like a tall ask. And then it just kind of seeps in, and then you play it, and you play slightly more, and you play slightly more, and you try slightly new things, and you evolve until, like, you know, and it just something that kind of sticks with you. That's how I got introduced. I think the reason why it stuck around as like my hobby or my side hobby, because I kind of like, since it was like, you know, a creativity as a kid, it kind of was one of the things that helped to like get me started like acting and making things creativity. Like, I like to use an example, like, I'm a painter, a drawer painter, like, you know, like on canvas for, like, you know, I have a BFA and MFA in drawing, painting, studio art, whatnot. But for crying out loud, like the first thing I ever painted was like a miniature, and the first art I looked at was in like the Dungeon Master's Guide or all these type of things. So I kind of credit it with the Colonel as the main inspiration. So like comics were cool, they were good, but then like, you know, I get older and I can't afford comics. I can't read comics. Like I don't draw as well as comics. And I'm not saying I'm a good game artist. It's like, you know, my eternal shame that I'm a fantastic observational drawer, like, you know, life drawing from observation. I can make beautiful paintings, and I'm a shoddy game artist. Like the most I can do is like really good cartography. That's like my modus operandi. But the long story short is the material it provided and what I ended up doing with that stuff was kind of the impetus of like, you know, creating and making and thinking and daydreaming and like, you know, kind of making the source well for like, you know, thinking beyond your like, you know, received culture that you get from watching the TV or playing the video games or like that stuff. Like, you know, nothing really beats the creative output of making your own stuff and like, you know, running things for the people in front of you or at a distance and having that. So it's just kind of stuck around as like the most worthwhile quote unquote hobby that like, you know, I have. Like, you know, dear God, it's like, you know, as consuming as it is, it's hard to call it just a hobby, but it really is like, you know, ingrained to like the storytelling, the making of stuff, like, you know, responsible for meeting people and or interacting with my good friends. So it just kind of stuck as the thing that's there. I don't know. That probably didn't answer all the questions, but that's the gist of the situation.
I think that was a great answer. It was really cool to hear the momentum into gaming, almost like it's like a subculture, I think, more than a hobby.
Yeah, like, I mean, all hobbies kind of have a strange subculture. Like, you know, it's radio-controlled airplanes is like a big scene somewhere or this, that, the other thing. So I don't want to besmirch anyone else's scenes, but it's just the one that, like, it's kind of stuck with me because it seems worthwhile. You do it with friends, but then you can do all this creative stuff by yourself around it. So there's lots of reasons behind it, lots of reasons why people like it. So I think that's why it stuck with me as the one childish thing that became the adultish thing that became like the lifelong thing that's kind of stuck with me.
That's
it should
really
be
cool.
like it should be like, you know, bicycling or exercising or something, but it's like no luck, right? So
you do what you can. Anthony, how about you?
I like what Christopher said about with the art angle. I just growing up in upstate New York, it was like a farm town, and this is right when D&D was really popular when I was like 5, and my older brother had all this stuff, and we were reading ElfQuest comic books. Conan the Barbarian had come out, so all that, and I'm an art major, woodcrafting art major college wise, but all that stuff was just so much fun and interesting to me and it was around in the house, right? This fantasy setting idea, playing with swords with my brothers and stuff like that, shooting bows and arrows in the woods. So the creation of the game, those rules I didn't care about. My brother handled all that stuff. And then I stopped playing for a while, but I always loved my fantasy movies, loved that entire culture, and never been ashamed to call myself a nerd ever. I think the community part is why we're still really gaming now, because I can be creative and my friends can enjoy that creativity and vice versa. I mean, we have a few different groups of extremely close friends, like we'll be friends for life. And we like to play each other's games as well as like not play a game at all and just hang out. So the idea of the tabletop community is really wonderful. And I'm seeing more and more like pivoting into the online thing. And it's a world I've never seen before. So I love that supportiveness of the D&D culture, especially now. There's a level of accepting, which is wonderful. And honestly, like one of the things I always say when people are like, you have a D&D company, like an LLC and a bank account for this? I'm like, yeah, nerds have money and they want to play a cool game. So there's a certain point, there's a lot of articles about this, a certain point where we're all on our phones and we all have there's a lack of human communion and communication and sitting together. And there's like the popularity of role-playing games in the last few years is a great example of how people have realized that just playing on your phone by yourself isn't life, and you really want to sit at a table with your friends. Yes, like scheduling a Friday night with 6 people is damn near impossible for your gaming group. But once you commit, it's like one of the best times ever, and like almost nothing will get in the way of like, sorry, I'm gaming tonight. Like, sorry about your cool thing. This thing I can't not go to this thing. So there's a cultural community part of it that I love. I'm very social being in the restaurant business, and that's the other thing. Like a lot of restaurant people love D&D, man. One of the main reasons I started Orcs was we were going to do just like service industry monthly D&D games, and after the second one, they wanted to bring their friends who weren't in the service industry. So then we opened it up, and Orcs is almost 3 years old.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you mentioned like it just fills in that gap. Like, sorry, I've got this. Like my buddy ran D&D every Saturday morning, and sorry, I'm busy Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the campaign. But with the coronavirus, the COVID-19 lately, it's made it much more difficult to just say I'm meeting up with people physically in a group. And I was thinking about even a game like Catchphrase. You're just passing the catchphrase thing from one person to another. It's like, do you have sanitizer in between? It's harder to meet in restaurants because they have the occupancies, or they're just closed for takeout only. So how have you been able to adapt, or what are some ways that you could adapt and kind of leverage gaming during a quarantine like this?
Chris, you want to go on that?
Sure, I'll start off. Like, I think, well, the alone time kind of facilitates more drawing of dungeon maps and like, you know, planning and writing and making of like the solo culture around game stuff. So it's kind of the unspoken thing, like especially around like, you know, game masters, dungeon masters, like, you know, there's a solo culture involved with gaming, which is like, you know, prepping for the game, writing stuff for the game, drawing stuff for the game, painting miniatures for the game, like, you know, prepping your props for the game, et cetera, et cetera. So there's definitely a solo culture, and it's okay to just have that be the thing. Like, it's not be ashamed. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah. It's like, I'm drawing dungeon maps for no one who's ever going to play this, and it's so devious. And so that's okay. Like, that's creative output. That is you, like, you know, doing game stuff by your own. So that's like level 1 of quarantine stuff. You can play by yourself like this, and there's like this big like splurge and like, you know, solo design mechanics and whatnot out there on electronic documents some places. So there's that, but then there's also like the various forms of communication you can have between people. So it could be an email game, it could be a play by post if you've ever tried that. A play by post game where you go back and forth. It could be like, even you can de-evolve your, like, you know, 5th edition dungeon game to like a letter writing campaign back and forth, which other, like, you know, campaigns have done, like letters between the wizards talking to one another and complaining, and like, you know, things like that, on up until like the full, like, you know, virtual tabletops is what they call, or just the meetings like this. There's a couple different tools out there. You just have to all have to be on the same page with the software and the level of commitment. It doesn't have to be like a steep buy, because there is like a steep buy that some things could be like expensive and or like the hardware. So I think the most is like, like, you know, right before school shut down, I got like, you know, a brand spanking new, like, you know, webcam and put up an IKEA rug behind me, and so
I thought that looked familiar.
I mean, it's a good deal, like $10. Looks great. All the few students logged in says I look very twitchy, so it's okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah, right, exactly. And that's a good segue into something there, Chris. Like, I didn't know much about Twitch, and I didn't know anything about Roll20. I knew Discord. We use Slack for works for my company, and I want to jump real quick on what you just said about you can have. How should I phrase this? I have a few games where within Slack we'll have like in-game play in character, and the more we're interactive with that, the more the game master rewards us with inspiration or like XP. So he's promoting this like role playing, not at the table, But between you and the other people in your, for instance, this is a Shadowrun thing. We'll chat because Shadowrun like correspondence is like all internet stuff. So we'll kind of like act like it's almost like posting on Reddit is what is like how the Shadowrun chat goes. So we'll kind of get in character and do that, and we'll work a ton of stuff out before we get together again next month and have a plan. As a DM, I love that. As a player, I really love it because it's fun. You'll be sitting there at night, like, oh, I wonder what's up. Oh, hey, I can like get in on this, and you can form a plan. So when you sit down, you don't just like chat for a while. Like, what do you guys want to do? I don't know. You figured it out during like the last 3 weeks, and it's a really cool. That's one of the first things I would suggest too. If you're gonna do like a Roll20 game, or even just play over Discord, just audio, with a map out or something. It's fun to do to work on your game between sessions. And I've found that the online gaming, because I just started, there's something unique about it. It really creates a forum where when you're doing it, you're kind of a little more serious. I'm finding my Roll20 games very structured and very focused. And you get a lot more done, and the amount of like information sharing, or like, here's a document, or what spell, and you just post it so people can see. There's a lot less flipping through books, like kind of not caring or taking crappy notes. You can just type it up in the chat, and then you can look back what happened last week and be like, oh, that's right. It's almost better in a way. Other than the people in the room and your friends and family playing, there's a lot more. You can do more world building and keeping your game on track through online gaming. I've found it's just more streamlined once you get over the technical stuff, you know.
I think there's like I think it definitely, as opposed to like the face-to-face play, I think it definitely requires more getting over the hump of the investment, especially online, because like I'm in an online game now, and like, you know, last night it's like, oh man, this is kind of flaming out. No one's like, you know what's worse than listening to someone flip pages at the table? Listen to someone flip pages over the mic. So there is, because people start like surfing on the internet and all these types of stuff. So I definitely believe you that like it can go both ways, and I'm not bagging on online thing. And particularly, I was doing a face-to-face campaign where it was old school D&D, where you get extra XP for blowing your treasure, and so people would end up typing up how they blew their treasure while in town. Awesome. And then it became like, on one-upmanship of like who could like get the most esoteric, strange way that their character would be blowing money back and forth. And so like I'd be spending like 2 hours writing like this big like explanation about like what I'm blowing and this, and it would be back and forth. And so like the whole like structure of the world was like kind of written this way about where all this money got spent and the economies that would be wrecked locally from like where we'd go. So, and it like built all this culture. So it was all this side culture that got made outside of the game. It also like was our planning to take care of all the little off-screen things so we could get down to like, dungeoneering and all this type of stuff. So the written culture is highly important, I think, for on and offline games, but it could be really a good outlet for the distance that's kind of going on. So there are all these online tools. It's just the buy-in still got to be there from everyone at the table, or like, the social contract of like how you guys are going to play, or like what you're going to take care of by the time like the dice roller starts happening. So
right, and I'll pop in with that as far as money-wise, yes. And I didn't think, because I was playing Roll20 for free, and it was like, I just didn't have the assets I wanted. It's not too damn expensive, wonderfully enough. I'm surprised just with the plus. As far as Roll20 goes, which is the most popular like online, virtual tabletop going on, once you get your head around how to use it and watch the tutorials, it's not so bad. And what I found was, the money wise, if you want to have like all the cool maps, all the assets for, let's say, the new Saltmarsh campaign, $50. It's just like buying the module. It's just like buying the game anyway. So if you don't have it, you still have $50 into the thing. You have the entire module, and you have maps, and you've got cool tokens, you've got all the new monsters, all the new stuff out of that book. And if you have a table of 5 friends playing, $10 later, you're good to go. So a little sharing there, and then all of a sudden, like, we're gonna play through Saltmarsh. give me $10 and we'll start next week and we can play for half a year. That's pretty cool. I kind of like that idea. It's almost like the same as, hey, who wants to go in for like a whole bunch of pizza kind of thing. But there is a jump. There is a money leap. But because D&D is not the most expensive game to play until you get crazy with your minis, and then it's totally fun and expensive. At least it's not Warhammer. But there's kind of ways around it. And I'm actually writing an article for a friend's podcast and blog about the 5 best map building tools online. And, you know, I do the free version, and then I look at what the paywall money's at. And there's some pretty cool stuff for not that much money out there. Talk about maps, Chris. I love my map building so much. I'd rather make 3D terrain for my table than paint minis. I'm more into the terrain. I want to build like cool rock structures and stuff. I like that more.
It's definitely like, you know, the weird things that we like to do, like, you know, the weird and not so weird type of things that we like to do. So any which way you gotta have fun with it. Like, you know, I kind of balk at, like, you know, paying for, like, I've like made maps like at all, like, you know, I have a degree in drawing. It's like there's no way in hell I'm gonna pay for a map making software. So like I'll just like, you know, scan and take a photo of it. I'll like hand draw it. Like the amount of like hand drawn inked charcoal stupid maps I've made, it's just not right. So
I love graph paper.
yeah, it's a thing. So it's I think it's pretty cheap. Like gaming, like, you know, tabletop gaming itself, like, you know, it's only our own personal capitalistic foibles that makes like it really expensive. Whereas like you can go down to the used bookstore, just pick up like, you know, a dusty D&D book, and you just need those 3 books or whatnot, or something like that, or even get like, you know, there's people selling like, you know, D&D clones on internet for like at cost printing. So for literally $5, if you want to run a game club at a school, $5 a book for like, you know, 30 books, you can equip an entire club for just playing standard desk D&D. Like the most important, like, you know, just get some cheap dice, and then it's so cheap. The Roll20, I like, you know, we're doing, just to say the layout, like, because I'm always irritated. It's like, well, what do you use? What are you doing? So we use Discord for voice. We don't have any video going for that. And we use Roll20 freebie. And of course, I made all my assets and just like, you know, cut, paste, and pop.
Oh yeah,
Arthur
for sure.
Rackham are like awesome, like, you know, Victorian engravings for like, you know, counters everywhere.
Nice.
And threw up my own, like, you know, like Marshy Moore, and called it good. The flip side of that is like, you know, I have a game night. It's like, oh gosh, I got to draw this castle now. And it kind of takes it's a thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like, yeah, there are some great, like Wonder Draft's pretty great. I spent a little money on that. It's a gorgeous world builder. Don John's free dungeon generator that's hilariously fun because it even writes a little mini campaign for you. I was just playing with Dungeon Fog before getting on here. That's the free one's pretty limited, but it's a nice, you can build some cool stuff on there. So I'm going through some things, and Incarnate's the most famous. Free is not so bad with Incarnate, but you give them some money, and holy moly, you got gorgeous stuff to work with. You can populate trees perfectly. You can do a lot of work. But other than that, yeah, the Discord Roll20 combo seems to be cool because you can send, oh, here's this, you know, note from a wizard, and you have it printed out, or here's what the monster looks like. You can drop it in your Discord so everyone can see it. That I love handouts. I love visual aids. I'm a visual like learner. So some people like, I want to like imagine it myself. I'd rather see a picture and imagine it in the world. So dropping, and you can just hit the internet real quick and just slap it into Discord, and all of a sudden you got a really rich game going with visual aids. If someone's like, what loot would you got? You just copy and paste it in there, so they don't have to like, hold on, what was that? And they write down how many potions, that silliness. It's like I said, it's a little more streamlined, and it enriches the experience a bit more. And you have a history of it, so you can split back. That's really cool. I love that the most.
And that's one of the things I noticed about D&D Beyond is I never took track of the people I talked to in taverns or who I was working for, because I wasn't taking notes. I was like trying to fully live the experience. And once I put my character into D&D Beyond, I was like paying attention to my hit points and my spell slots, and I was writing down allies, and just having that digital, like, so I'm not erasing and rewriting and erasing and rewriting. It kind of freed me up to take as many notes as I wanted to without the cumbersomeness of a pencil, which sounds really lame when I say it out loud.
No, Christopher, I agree. I can type so much faster than I can write. and I can also read it, and I can't read my own writing. So it's all about if it's cool to have a keyboard at a gaming table, I'm all about it.
Yeah, or you end up using your potion of frontal bone.
Yeah,
I drink it. Something happens.
and what's fun is if you do something like Roll20, for instance, you cast a spell, the entire group can read the spell along with you and be like, oh, cool, good with that. Or even in Discord, you can do that. I love that interaction because then you can kind of work on a mechanic. It's like, we had a wall of force happen yesterday. My buddy posted, I'm like, I've never seen this. Like, yeah, I've never used it. And we decided he could do a really tricky thing with it because we all could read through it, and we chatted for a minute about rule mechanics, and all agreed and like, move on, that's great. Instead of like, wait, give me that book, let me read this for a sec. It was a very interactive thing to like look at the same spell together and decide, yeah, that'll work. And then I drew out, how it was supposed to be, and it looked great.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
It looks like we are running up to the end of our time for this panel.
Cool.
And I want to keep it short, for high schoolers.
High schoolers, right? High schoolers should, they're all about this stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. We've got an awesome club, and
it could be really a symposium on dynamite and monster trucks, and people just log off after 5 minutes because there's just no patience at all.
But do you have any closing comments about the gaming in quarantine, or what this experience has been like for you, or any message to our students?
I would say put some ground rules in about socially interacting over the internet, because we are not used to interacting with each over the internet, maybe are for online shooters and whatnot, but there's a couple players that I'm playing with, and they're just slightly younger than me, and let me tell you, the meme spam that goes up there on Discord just goes off the chart. Just slow down, stop looking for memes, and just let's be in the moment, distantly, but let's be there. So have a social contract about what you're gonna do, even though they're not seeing. So hey folks, no, pay attention to us. Don't surf the internet unless you're looking up a ruler here and whatnot. But trying to have this hidden social contract where it's good form not to spread yourself, just like you don't watch TV in the background while you're at the game table in real life. You got to have an agreement that just because you can do it, you should do it. Take time, have set time limits, say this game starts here and this game ends at here, especially for working people, and so people get their sleep. And so come up with some ground rules, even though it's online and you can just sit there in your jammies on your couch and doing whatever. Put some social ground rules down and follow through on those, and I think that will really help the collective experience and make sure people don't get burnout, this, that, the other thing, and it goes efficiently.
I like that. I'll jump right on that too. We've definitely had to be a time limit here, guys. What I found as far as DMing, again, using Roll20, I got my little initiative tracker, or not. I got to keep the game rolling faster to keep some attention going on. I've definitely seen that happen for sure. If you're going to try to play on your phone, good luck. Please use. Okay, so it kind of goes into the idea of equipment. You should kind of if you want to get real for the next few months and play online, get some gear for it. Get a nice little webcam, or not. You don't do the webcam thing, but get your stuff together and play with it. I've been forcing a few of my friends please play with this a little bit more, because the more you play with this program offline, the better and faster, more fun it is for everyone. And it's turning into that now at week 6. We kind of got a good rhythm. Everyone knows how to mostly use it. I would suggest watching tutorials on stuff like this. There are excellent DMs that we only know through the computer, from Matt Mercer to Matt Carville, and there's a few others that are wonderful to watch. And if you really want to get good at these games, you should start watching some of the Twitch streams from Geek and Sundry. Not necessarily Dungeons and Dragons, but you can see how it's done well by pros. And take a tip or two, or kind of just notice their style for that kind of thing. And I also would say, as far as online, yes, we do have time to put something really cool together. Make sure your group knows how much time you did spend on that totally sweet map and the screenplay you wrote that you're actually going to just forget to read the entire night, just so that they appreciate your time more than just like the social time, like we're sitting in a room by ourselves playing a game. Let's give everyone a lot of respect, especially the person putting the game together.
Yeah.
And the result's better in the end.
I think respect is a great topic to wrap up on, because you can build community, and as long as you honor each other and as individuals and respect the time and the effort that people put into this, I think it can be a really positive experience. And I think that's about all we have time for today. You two have been amazing.
Thank you, Chris and Christopher.
Thank you.
I love hearing your perspective, and this has been really fun. And I hope everyone watching has enjoyed this as much as I have, and hopefully you too as well.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, play and make stuff. Play and make stuff.
Yeah, seriously, get creative, do something weird.
Yeah, rinse and repeat, over and over.